Hi, this is Esther with Discover Your Origins. In this video, it's going to be a part 2 research with me for Nancy Rebecca Harman. In the previous video, I had merged some duplicate profiles on Family Search, and now I'm trying to find out a bit more and see if I can figure out who she was married to and also her children. So I had surmised that she probably did marry Martin Harrison Corley because the families were neighbors and they're about the same age, and it just seemed to fit what we knew at last time. However, it would be nice to be able to find a marriage record if possible. And then as I was looking through the children, there's quite a bit here that doesn't seem right. And so I'll get into that in a minute. But first, let's see if we can find a marriage record. And the best place to learn how to find a marriage record in South Carolina is to go to the Family Search Research Wiki. And so this article talks about how to find South Carolina marriage records. One of the problems is that marriages were not recorded officially by the government until about 1911. And even then, it took a while for all of the counties to comply. So finding marriage records are really challenging. And there are a list of databases here, but if you look at the number of possible records, it's not very many. It doesn't hurt to search them just to be sure. You never know what you can find. I went ahead and already searched these and could not find any marriage records for Martin Harrison Corley or Nancy Rebecca Harman. In fact, I didn't find any marriage records for anybody named with the last names of Corley or Harman. So that means marriage records are going to be in church records, newspapers, possibly military records like pensions and obituaries. And at least for the time period that we're looking at, possibly family Bible records if you can find those. I already looked to see what kind of church records are available in Lexington County. And so if we go and look here, this is in the Family Search catalog. There are only 2 collections for church records connected to South Carolina, Lexington County, and neither of these cover the time period that I need. The marriage year is estimated to be around 1870, and neither of these records will work for us. So church records are probably not going to happen unless we could identify which church Nancy Harman belonged to. And I don't know because some of the Langford descendants were Baptist, some were Lutheran, and I don't know what church she would have belonged to. So church records are probably not going to help us unless we can figure anything else out. That leaves newspapers. So in the Family Search Research Wiki, there's a bunch of links for some newspaper collections. I've already looked at a couple of these, but I want to highlight a few. So this South Carolina newspaper collection from MyHeritage, it covers a pretty good span of years. And so I've got it, let's see, right here. You may need to change up the search to try multiple times to see if you can't find what you're looking for because, you know, this is doing keyword searching, and so you want to get the right keywords. So I have here Nancy Corley. This is going to pull up death records or marriage records. And so I have a year here, about 1870, and I can narrow by a location. And it's hard to say. Nancy was born in Lexington County, but she's in Edgefield County in 1880. So if I were to look for a death record, I want to look in Edgefield County, possibly. You can see here I got a few results. There's 1,000 results here, and one of the difficulties with MyHeritage is I don't have any way to sort these results. I can't sort by date, and so I would have to go through all of these to see if I can find anything. You get a little snippet, so you might be able to guess of or see if it's maybe referring to your particular person. You could also look at the newspaper title or location to see if maybe that newspaper would have covered the area where your ancestor was living. But anyway, you can vary the search. So if I wanted to look for Martin Corley with basically the same parameters, I could do that. And there are quite a few articles referring to Martin Corley. You can see the years here. And so I could keep looking and see if there is a possible newspaper article in this collection. I'm not going to spend the time to do that right now, only because this is a lot harder to go through because I can't sort through the results very well. I have to go through each page of results and look carefully to see if they might be useful. So I'm going to just leave this aside for right now. One of the other links is for newspapers is the historical newspapers of South Carolina, and this is probably going to be far more useful. I've found the search to be much more useful than the MyHeritage one. So this is a project done through the University of South Carolina Libraries. It is accessible to the public, and they have a basic search here where you can just do a basic keyword search. I would recommend going into the advanced search, and you can pre-select the newspapers that you want. You can also limit by a date range. So I am actually going to do that. And I don't know when Nancy died, but one suggestion was 1886. So if I go to 1887, just to kind of cover the potential of her marriage and her death. And then you can search by keywords here, where you can search all of the words, and it will look for any of those words on the page and make sure that whatever words you put here are all there, or any of the words. So it may find a page with, say, Nancy on one and then Corley on another. But this one right here, pages containing these words within 5 words of each other, is more likely to get results for you that are relevant. So I'm going to do a Nancy Corley first, and then I might repeat that search for Martin Corley, and then do a search for a Nancy Harman. And it did pull in a couple of results here. They do highlight the terms on the page. So 1884, February in Winnsboro, Fairfield. So let's look and see. And it does take a minute for the images to load. Okay. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse. All right. So this hasn't fully come in all the way yet, but this is about a land sale. So that's not a match. All right, so I'm not getting good results, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to try Martin Corley. Ooh, okay, so this Edgefield advertiser, I want to look at that one because they were living in Edgefield in 1880. Okay, so this is not a match, unfortunately. W. N. Martin and Wilson Corley. They're within 5 words of each other, but that's not who we're looking for. So that's not a match. This Yorkville, I don't think it's probably a match either. Let's just do one more Nancy Harman. No results. Okay, so these newspapers here are a bust. The church records are a bust. It's still possible that something could show up. So it may take a little bit more digging to see if we can't find something. And obituaries would be in the newspaper if they were there. So that means we're not going to be able to find marriage information through any of the available sources at the moment. But there is quite a bit of work that we can do trying to sort out the children. And let me just go forward and look at Martin's page here. There's some things here that raised some red flags and made me a little bit concerned. One is his birth and death date. We don't really have any evidence for the dates that have been entered here. It doesn't mean that they aren't valid. There's just no evidence. See, there's nothing here. So where did these dates come from? The 1849 year is probably correct, but I don't know about anything else. And then he's got 4 wives. The first is Nancy. The second is Annie Jane Sutton and in Georgia. And he's got 11 children listed there. His third wife is America Fanny Crosby in Georgia. And then we've got Sarah Sally Scarborough in Georgia with 3 more children. So there's a lot of children here and these 3 marriages. This third marriage here, I have some questions about. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look at the sources under America Fanny Crosby. But what I did is I created a timeline for Martin Harrison Corley based on the records that are currently attached to him. I don't know 100% if they're all really referring to him. It's just in the past that people have attached these records to him. So what I did is I created a timeline. You can see I have it color-coded here. It starts with his birth, about 1850. That's based off the census. And I recorded the record type, the year, and then I divided it up based on the women that appeared to be named as potential spouses. And so Nancy, the person that I've been focusing on, is mentioned in the 1880 census with these children. So Nancy is the first that appears in the 1880 census with these children. Then we've got this Annie Jane Sutton and 3 more children. And then the third, we have Sally Scarborough, and there's an actual marriage record in Mitchell, Georgia, Mitchell County, Georgia. And there are some additional children, which I didn't list all of them, but there's a bunch. So there's a lot of questions here. We've got 3 potential locations: South Carolina, multiple locations in Georgia, and multiple locations in Alabama. So when I look at this, one thing I'm concerned about is may have been some bad merges in the past and mixed up this Martin Harrison Corley with some other Martin Harrison Corleys. I also created this chart based off the children that are listed in Family Search. Over here under Nancy, we've got these children listed, and 4 of them are questionable, possibly more of them. But the first 3 that I've got in bold here, James, Claude, Robert Lee, and Eleanor, should have been in the 1880 census, and they're not. And their birth locations are listed as Georgia. So they are probably not children of Nancy and Martin because they are in South Carolina in 1880. And it doesn't make sense that they would have moved every 2 years between states in 1870 to have children and then move back. So I'm going to look a little bit closer, but I'm going to probably disconnect those children. And then when you start looking at these other children, they overlap. So we have Annie Jane Sutton here, and her children appear to be sequential following 1884. And we got another Georgia child here. But they're all in Georgia, and they seem to go to about 1904. And then you come over here to Sally, and she's got 3 children starting in 1900. So there's an overlap there. We also have children in which the birth dates overlap. So we got Robert Lee over here, 1877, born in Georgia. Then we have a Robert Lee, born in 1888 in Georgia. So they overlap and it doesn't quite make sense. Then we have this Eleanor, this Eleonora, could be the same person, 1891 or 1880. And that's what makes me think there may have been more than one man named Martin Corley who had all of these children. And they could be related to each other. It was very common to have men with the same name in the same areas, naming, having children and naming them similar names. See, we've got a Hattie and a Hattie Bell, but then we've got this Ruby, and it's Joseph, and we've got a Josephus. So there's definitely something not quite right. So we're going to go back over here to Martin. Now I wanted to just really quickly look at his changelog and see what merges may have happened. Beginning in 2012 is when Family Search migrated to their new platform based off whatever was in the new Family Search. So we'll get up above that. Okay, we start to see changes happening in 2014. We get some additional children added. So we get America Fanny Crosby added in 2018. Then Sarah Sally Scarborough comes in 2018. And children added to that. So I scrolled through the changelog and looked to see if there were any bad merges, and it doesn't appear there were. But I do think there may be some misattributed connections. There's a lot of connections that were made without any sources or records. And so it becomes a bit of a muddled mess because people were just adding records and adding people that they saw in the records and not really analyzing whether they were a good fit or not. So it's going to take quite a bit of work to figure out all of these children. My main focus is the Langford descendants, which is Nancy Rebecca Harman and what children she may have had. And so I am going to probably disconnect some of these children because, especially the ones that were born in Georgia, it doesn't seem to make sense that they would have had those children. I'm going to do a bit more looking at the source records for the children, but when we check in next time, we're going to see a different family makeup, I think. So I have started on Ancestry with perhaps a cleaner profile, one that hasn't had so many changes made to them. And you can see here, I've got a Nancy Harman here with Martin Harrison Corley and with the children that are mentioned in the 1880 census. And I think that's a really good place to start. And so I'm going to go through these children, and we'll probably have fewer of them by the time we're done than what's currently listed on Family Search. A bit of record analysis, trying to figure out this family a little bit more. I hope that was helpful, seeing a process of going through the records like that. All I can say is stay tuned and see if I figure any more of this out. Until then, we'll see you next time.